Hi everyone, I'm Linda Reimer, one of the librarians at the Southeast Bend County Library. Welcome to Library Connections, our weekly readers, viewers, and listeners advisory videocast. Enjoy! Library Connections number 84. This is the Friday, January 14th, 2022 edition of Library Connections. Jumping right in with the top 5 fiction bestsellers for this week from the New York Times. At number 1, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. A battered wife, raised in a violent home, attempts to halt the cycle of abuse. At number 2, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A movie icon recounts stories of her loves and career to a struggling magazine writer. At number 3, Verity by Colleen Hoover. Loan Ashley is hired by the husband of an injured writer to complete her popular series and uncovers a horrifying truth. And one thing that isn't horrifying, but which is absolutely cool, is the fact that the author Colleen Hoover has 2 books in the top 5 on the New York Times bestseller list for this week. Way to go, Colleen! But of course, I digress. Getting back to the fiction bestsellers for this week, at number 4, Invisible by Danelle Steele. The daughter of a couple in a loveless marriage is discovered by a British filmmaker and thrust into the public eye. And at number 5, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. A reimagining of Homer's Iliad that is narrated by Achilles' companion, Patroclus. Moving on to the top 5 nonfiction bestsellers for this week, at number 1, Unthinkable by Jamie Raskin. The Maryland congressman describes leading the impeachment effort against the former president shortly after his son's death by suicide and the insurrection at the Capitol. At number 2, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. How trauma affects the body and mind and innovative treatments for recovery. At number 3, The 1619 Project, edited by Nicole Hannah Jones, Caitlin Roper, Elena Silverman, and Jake Silverstein. Viewing America's entanglement with slavery and its legacy in essays adapted and expanded from the New York Times Magazine. At number 4, Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. The daughter of a Korean mother, a Jewish American father, and leader of the indie rock project Japanese Breakfast, describes creating her own identity after losing her mother to cancer. And at number 5, Will by Will Smith with Mark Manson. The actor, producer, and musician tells his life story and lessons he learned along the way. Our first recommended read for this week is the Robert Jordan fantasy, The Eye of the World. The Eye of the World is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. So let me tell you a little about the plot. The Wheel of Time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth returns again. What was, what will be, and what is may yet fall under the shadow. In the Second Age, the dragon subdued the Dark One and his disciples, trapping them in a mystical prison. And now the Third Age has begun, and the dragon is gone, but reborn in a boy who doesn't yet know his supreme calling. Time is precious, for the prison degenerates, and the Dark One can soon work his evil. Only the boy Rand can stop him. From his prison, the Dark One wills his warriors to destroy Rand's village. But Morianne, a servant of the dragon, comes with her protector. They fight off the warriors and whisk away Rand. He's destined for Tar Valon, the island city of the Aes Sedai, where he'll discover his power. Can the Dark One stop his journey? You'll have to read the book to find out, and I do have to note that this is the first book in the 14-novel Wheel of Time series, and it is also the basis for the new Amazon TV series of the same name, Wheel of Time. So if you like fantasy and want to binge read or binge watch, check out Wheel of Time. Our second recommended read for this week is called The Readers of Broken Wheel Recommend, a novel by Katarine Vivold. Swedish author Vivold's debut novel is a delight. Erstwhile bookseller Sarah Lindquist has traveled from her home in Sweden to the tiny town of Broken Wheel, Iowa, in order to spend time relaxing and reading with her pen pal Amy Harris. But what she finds upon arriving is that she's just in time for Amy's funeral. Sarah is bewildered, but the townsfolk insist that she stay in Amy's house and generally refuse to let her pay for anything. She decides to give back by opening Amy's old store and sharing Amy's books with the community. Vivold fills the pages with book references, chief among them Austen and Bridget Jones. But it is her characters that will win readers over. Sarah, unassuming, and, as an outsider, providing a wonderful view of the Iowans. Amy's nephew Tom Harris, Poor George, Caroline Rhode, and the rest all bear their own hurts, and each is, in some way, healed by Sarah's presence and her books. As in Austen, love conquers, but just who and how will come as a pleasant surprise. And that is the Starred Publishers Weekly Review of an upbeat read, perfect for these long winter days, which are a little bit dark, mostly. Moving on to our first audiobook recommendation for this week. This is a classic. It's The Hobbit by Jrr Tolkien, narrated by the outstanding author Ron Inglis. Like every other Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins likes nothing better than a quiet evening in his snug home in the ground, dining on a sumptuous dinner in front of a roaring fire. But when a wandering wizard named Gandalf captivates him with tales of the unknown, Bilbo becomes restless. Soon he joins Gandalf's band of homeless dwarves in search of giant spiders, savage wolves, and other dangers. Bilbo quickly tires of the quest for adventure and longs for the security of his familiar home. But before he can return to his life of comfort, he must face the greatest threat of all, a treasure-troving dragon named Smaug. In his fantasy classic, master storyteller Jrr Tolkien creates a bewitching world filled with delightful creatures and thrilling dangers. Narrator Rob Inglis will hold listeners of all ages spellbound with his skillful portrayal of hobbits, dwarves, and enchanted beasts. The Hobbit is the prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and the author, as mentioned, is outstanding, and so it's notable that he also narrates the Lord of the Rings trilogy on recorded books. So after you finish The Hobbit, you might check out The Fellowship of the Ring, by the same author, of course, and narrated by the excellent Rob Inglis. Our second audiobook recommendation for this week is the new Anthony Horowitz mystery, A Line to Kill. The audio is narrated by Rory Kinnar. The New York Times best-selling author of the brilliantly inventive The Word is Murder and The Sentence is Death returns with his third literary whodunit, featuring intrepid detectives Hawthorne and Horowitz. When ex-detective Inspector Daniel Hawthorne and his sidekick, author Anthony Horowitz, are invited to an exclusive literary festival on Alderney, an idyllic island off the south coast of England, they don't expect to find themselves in the middle of a murder investigation, or to be trapped with a cold-blooded killer in a remote place with a murky, haunted past. Arriving on Alderney, Hawthorne and Horowitz soon meet the festival's other guests, an eccentric gathering that includes a best-selling children's author, a French poet, a TV chef turned cookbook author, a blind psychic, and a war historian, along with a group of ornery locals embroiled in an escalating feud over a disruptive power line. When a local grandee is found dead under mysterious circumstances, Hawthorne and Horowitz become embroiled in the case. The island is locked down, no one is allowed on or off, and it soon becomes horribly clear that a murderer lurks in their midst. But who? You'll have to read the book to find out. And on a reader's note, if you'd like to start reading the series from the beginning, the first book is called The Word is Murder. Our first streaming recommendation for this week is the movie Passing, which is available through Netflix. It's directed by Rebecca Hall and stars Tessa Thompson, Ruth Negga, and Andre Holland. And I almost think I recommended this before, but I can't find it listed in my notes for the last 6 weeks, so if I did, I didn't write it down. In any case, Passing is a good movie to check out if you haven't seen it. Passing focuses on Irene Redfield, who is living an affluent, enviable life with her husband and children in the thriving African-American enclave of Harlem in the 1920s, and a childhood friend that she meets after many years named Claire Kendry. Since they last saw each other, Claire, who is similarly light-skinned, has been passing for a white woman. She's married to a racist man who does not know about his wife's real identity, which she has chosen to hide from the rest of the world. Irene is both fascinated and repulsed by Claire's dangerous secret, and in turn, Claire yearns for Irene's sense of ease and security with her Black identity and community. A community which Claire gave up in pursuit of a more advantageous life, and which she can never embrace again. As the two women grow close, Claire begins to insert herself and her deception into every part of Irene's stable existence, and their complex reunion sets off a chain of events that dynamically alters both women forever. The film is based on the 1929 Nella Larson novel of the same name, of course, Passing. Our second streaming recommendation for this week is the complete series Stations 11, which is streaming now from HBO Max. It stars Mackenzie Davis, Himesh Patel, and Matilda Lawlor, although it does really have an ensemble cast. When is one of the best shows of 2021, also one of the best shows of 2022, when it, as HBO Max's miniseries Stations 11 did, debuts at the end of the year, only to wrap up at the start of 2022. This series, which adapts an incredibly prescient 2014 novel by Emily St. John Mandel, follows many lives during a pandemic that wipes out 98% of humanity. And it jumps around in time in the ways that only the great TV shows do, showing life at the start and middle of the cataclysmic event, as well as what happens to humanity after. Alternatingly hopeful and grim, Stations 11 wraps up this month, but you could get caught up in a day, as it's only going to have 10 episodes, including that finale. There are 20 episodes total. While Stations 11 has multiple character arcs, the main plot tracks the main character, Kirsten. It tracks her from her adolescence through to her adulthood, as she begins life as an actor and survives as one as well, contributing to a traveling troupe performing Shakespeare. Davis delivers a stellar performance, but this is a true ensemble project and one you will need to watch. And that's the Tom's Guide review. It's the shortest one I could find. This is a cool series, but of course, whether you want to watch it now or sometime further down the road depends on your tolerance for things regarding pandemics. But it is a neat sci-fi series. And our third streaming recommendation for this week is the film The Tender Bar, directed by George Clooney and starring Ben Affleck, Ty Sheridan, and Daniel Ranieri. You could stream this one from Amazon, as it is, of course, an Amazon original movie. In 1972, 9-year-old Jrr Maguire moves into his grandfather's dilapidated house in Long Island. The boy is searching for a father figure, and he falls under the unconventional tutelage of his Uncle Charlie, a charismatic, self-educated bartender who introduces him to a handful of the bar's colorful regulars. As the years pass, and Jr. grows into a young man, he tries to fulfill his dream of becoming a writer. And the movie is based on the memoir by J.R. Moringer. So that kind of gives you a clue as to whether the boy does become a writer or not, but I digress. And finally, our Hoopla recommendation for this week is the first season of the mystery series The Sandom Murders. This series is based on Vivica Stein's popular novels, and it brings them perfectly to life with a mix of Nordic crime and the beautiful surroundings of the outer Stockholm archipelago where the series is filmed, and of course set. This series follows lawyer Nora Lind, who owns a summer house on Sandom and offers her assistance in solving various murders on or near that island. So if you haven't heard of this series before, and indeed I hadn't until recently, check it out. It's interesting. If you have questions about this weekly videocast, send me an email. My email address is reimerl@stls.org. That's REIMERL@stls.org. And I'll get back to you. Currently, the library is open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we are closed on Sundays. The library's website is found at ssclibrary.org. You can find a whole host of information about the library, including what activities are going on in person or online. You can access our catalogs. There's a whole bunch of great resources available through our website, so check it out. StarCat and the BookMine app. StarCat is the catalog of physical library materials, i.e. print books, DVDs, etc. StarCat is available to all cardholders of the public libraries in the Southern Tier Library System, which encompasses all the public libraries in Steuben, Chemung, Yates, Schuyler, and Allegheny counties. You can find StarCat online at starcat.stls.org, or you can go to your app store and download the StarCat app, which is called BookMine. That's BookMyne. Download that to your mobile device, and you can access StarCat through the app. The digital catalog and its companion app, Libby. The digital catalog is like StarCat, except it offers digital content to all library cardholders within the Southern Tier Library System. So that means eBooks, downloadable audiobooks, a handful of streaming videos too. So online you can find the digital catalog at stls.overdrive.com, or you can download the Libby app to your mobile device. Additionally of note, if you have a dedicated e-reader like the Kindle Paperwhite, you can get digital catalog content, also known as Libby content, on your e-reader. But there's a different way to do that. So if you have questions about how to put ebooks on your dedicated e-reader, just know that you can do that. Just call the library or drop by and we will walk you by the steps, which are a little different depending upon which dedicated e-reader you have. Hoopla. The Hoopla catalog features ebooks, comic books, full-length albums, downloadable audiobooks, and streaming videos, including both TV shows and movies. All Hoopla items are available for instant checkout for Southeast Steuben County Library cardholders with a maximum of 10 checkouts per card per month. Communicating with the library. If you have a question about library services during the pandemic, you are welcome to go the traditional route and simply give us a call. The library's telephone number is 607-936-3713. And you can also connect with the library via social media. The library has pages on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Library blogs. We have several of them. We have the Book Club for Adults blog, found at SSCLbook.club, and about, you guessed it, the monthly book club for adults. The Corning NY History blog, which is our local history blog featuring weekly postings. That one's found at corningnyhistory.com. We have Creation Stationery, our Makerspace blog, which you can access at creationstationery.com. We also have Storing Musings, a blog hosted by the library's resident author and head of adult services, Michelle Wells, which is found at storymusings.blogspot.com. And finally, we have Tech and Book Talk, a readers, viewers, and listeners advisory blog, which is found at sscltech.com. And notable, you will also find each episode of Library Connections posted to the blog, usually on Tuesday of the week after they air, episodes airing, of course, on Fridays. And our references over the week. And that's the program for this week. I'll be back next week with a new edition of Library Connections. Have a great week.